Give it about one more minute. Hope everyone's having a good morning. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today for our webinar, Online Reviews 101, Take Control of Your Online Reputation. I'm Jenny Tukeski, and I am the Programming and Communications Manager here for Better Business Bureau Midwest Plains. We just wanted to let everyone know that we are recording the webinar this morning, and later on this afternoon, I will send out a follow-up email to you with a link to the webinar as well as the presentation information for you just to have as a future reference. We are excited to have Myra, Executive Vice President of the Review Solutions with Third Coast Interactive, for spending time with us this morning. She oversees the company's overall strategies and initiatives by working closely with global brands, collaborating with national associations and organizations comprised of business and business owners, and managing the partnership with the Better Business Bureau. Today, she will be discussing how reviews can successfully impact your business, best practices requesting reviews, and going over effective review response tactics. We ask that if you have any questions, to please put them in the chat, and we will get to those throughout the presentation. So no further ado, I hand it over to you, Myra. Welcome.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you to your BBB for having me today, and thank you for everybody for joining us this morning. As Jenny said, my name is Moira, and I work for Third Coast Interactive, which manages the Review Solution app. We are going to talk a little bit about that app and how it can help accredited businesses like you get more reviews. On the webinar from my team today is Emily Elliott, and she will also help answer any questions that you may have regarding some of the topics that I covered today. So just make sure you drop that in the chat, and she will address it when she can. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'm assuming that because you're on this webinar, you have some intuitive sense, right, that online reviews are important. But I think sometimes putting a distinct statistic with that really makes it clear just how important they have become to businesses over the last few years. And really, they're important to businesses because they're important to consumers. And so just to let you all know, most of my sources are going to come from Bright Local's local consumer survey, the most recent iteration. So that just came out earlier this year. And it's based on, a sample size of consumers. And you're free to look on their actual website to take a look at their methodology and how they get to these numbers. But as you can see here, 97% of consumers read online reviews. And so that's virtually everybody. And you can probably think about your own personal behavior when it comes to reviews. You probably use them, your friends and family use them. And so that should come as no surprise to you. Now, not only are people reading online reviews, but 41% use 3 or more review sites when they're researching businesses. And so that's important because I think for a while, people would focus on maybe 1 review sites and maybe not look so good on other review sites for their business. But I think consumers are definitely getting more savvy when it comes to customer reviews, and they understand that different review sites offer different things. And so the tendency is to look in multiple places, right, for their reviews when they're researching businesses. Okay, now, generically, yes, reviews matter, but there's also aspects of reviews that matter to consumers more now than they have in the past. One of the things that people are really paying attention to is when a review was written. And that makes sense. I think that when you're deciding to spend your money with a business, whether it is to purchase a product or use a service that they offer, when you're researching what consumers' experience have been with them, you kind of want to see which consumers are going to have the most similar experience to you. And typically that means the most recent, right? So a year ago, reviews for business might not be relevant at all because it might be completely different management, completely different policies. They might be offering totally different services, products, their pricing might be different. And so I think the closer to today that a review was written, the more weight a consumer gives it. And so you can see here, 93% of consumers absolutely care when a review is written. And in fact, almost over a quarter of them and almost a third expect to see reviews from the past 2 weeks. And so that kind of checks out, right? So again, I think people understand that things can change pretty quickly within businesses. And so they just want to make sure that when they're doing the research and reading reviews written by other customers, that those reviews are going to be the most similar to what they would experience. Okay, goes without saying, star rating absolutely does matter when looking at reviews. And in fact, almost 3/4 of consumers won't even look at a business with a 3-star rating or lower. And so I think, really good, I would say you always try to aim for over a 4.5 star, but at the very least, you want to be above that 3-star threshold. And that can be tricky because depending on the review site, they can round down. So sometimes you can have like a 3.98 or 3.99 rating, but because they round down the number of stars visually that's filled in for that particular review site, is only going to be 3 stars. And so definitely aiming for at least a 4-star rating is what we recommend to all businesses. And if you take a look here, it's not enough to have a high rating. It's not enough to have reviews from the past couple of weeks. You also have to have a good chunk of reviews, right? So businesses expect, customers expect businesses to have between 20 or 99 reviews. I know that's a pretty big range, but really what that means is, certainly more than 20. And I think once you get the triple-digit reviews, obviously that's impressive. And that may be more or less realistic for you than other businesses, depending on the type of volume that you do on a day-to-day or a month-to-month basis. But you want a good chunk of reviews, especially if you don't have a lot of reviews from the last couple of weeks. And again, like I mentioned earlier, they're also looking on multiple review sites for reviews. So really, you're starting to get a picture of what consumers really care about when researching business online. You have to have a healthy number of reviews on multiple different review site platforms, and you have to have a higher than average 3-star average. And the reviews, a good portion of them have to be written within the past 2 weeks. Okay. Now, a recent, relatively recent phenomenon that I've started to see when monitoring kind of these types of consumer surveys and just, when you're taking the pulse of consumers, is they're also starting to look if a business is responding to the reviews. So even 5 years ago, I would say that was important, and we would always recommend responding to reviews. But now pretty much everybody expects you to be responding to reviews. Okay, so you see here 93% expect businesses to respond to reviews, and they do expect you to respond within 2 weeks. So I would actually aim for 24 to 48 hours. But it's kind of like for them, they want to see you address, especially any negative reviews that you receive, but it's also nice to acknowledge any good reviews that you're receiving from your customers. Okay, so we talk about how important reviews are, and that might seem really daunting once you really think about what customers are looking for when they're researching businesses online. But the good news is 69% of consumers have stated that they wrote a review in 2023 when they were asked. And so I know that's easier said than done, but it should, make you feel optimistic to know that sometimes it can be as simple as asking for a review from your customers. Okay. All right. And then, before we really get into the nitty-gritty of asking for reviews, I want to kind of go over some of the review sites that do get a lot of review volume. And these are the review sites that consumers tend to look at, especially when researching different types of businesses. So obviously there's going to be industry-specific sites such as Home Advisor or Avvo for attorneys or Health Grades for medical professionals. But So I try to keep it generic. I'm also going to just kind of pick out what I think are the salient points. Feel free to take a picture or a screenshot of the next couple of screens just to keep the bullet points in mind and how the major review sites are different from one another. And as Jenny said, this is going to be sent out as a recording along with a copy of the presentation itself. Okay, so let's start with BBB. So BBB does not allow anonymous reviews, and they do require verification of the customer information. And that's a good thing, right? So I think businesses like that BBB takes that additional step when reviews come in from somebody. At the very least, they want to make sure that either the email address or the phone number provided by the person writing the review is valid. Okay, another thing that BBB does that's very different from some of the other major review sites is there's at least a 3 business day period before any review submitted is published. And this is actually beneficial for the business in a few different ways. So number one, what it does is allows the business to see the review before it's published. And this is a nice thing because there's a chance that maybe the review coming in wasn't really from someone who had a marketplace interaction with the business. So for your business specifically, if you're notified by BBB, hey, you got this review from Lucy Smith, and you're like, I don't remember Lucy Smith. So you check your customer records. You don't see ever, Lucy Smith ever really doing business with you guys. And so you let the BBB know, hey, I'm actually not sure that we had a legitimate marketplace interaction with this person. And so that's something that BBB allows you to do as a business. And if that's the case, what they do is they actually reach out to the customer, which is why it's important that the customer information is valid to, maybe get some sort of proof or commentary to make sure that they did have that marketplace interaction. And then, of course, the second thing is you're allowed to comment before the review is published as long as you do it within that 3-day window. So if you receive a review and you know that it was someone that was one of your customers, but you want to address some of the things that they talk about in the review, what BBB allows you to do is kind of append a response to the review so that the review is not published without giving you an opportunity to address anything that was brought up. And once that 3-day business period is up, the review plus whatever your response is published simultaneously. And so that's nice about that, because as you guys can see, or you guys will see, some of the other review sites, they let, unless you notice that there's a review about you that you want to address, the review is going to be up there a day, 2 days, 3 days, maybe even weeks, without you having the opportunity or even noticing that you should be addressing some of the issues that are brought up in the review. Okay. All right. And so I have Google, Yelp, and Facebook here just because, again, they tend to be for more generic type of businesses. They're not industry specific. Now, of course, Google is going to get the biggest volume of reviews when compared to these other review sites. And I think you guys, Yelp, it really depends on your location and the industry that you're in. Some of your competitors might be on Yelp. And so I would recommend being on Yelp if your competitors are. And then Yelp also tends to be more hospitality weighted. So you'll see a lot of restaurants and things like that on Yelp. And so none of these review sites allow anonymous reviews. So you have to have a Google account, a Yelp account, and then a Facebook account. And then, of course, for Facebook, if you want Facebook reviews, just because you have a business page on Facebook does not mean that you're able to get reviews on there from customers. So one of the things that's required to get Facebook reviews is you have to enable it as a business. And all of these reviews, essentially, once a customer submits a review, they're automatically published. Although with Yelp, it's a little bit more complicated. I'm going to go into that further. But what's different from BBB is you have the opportunity to append the response, and then both your response and the review that was written are published together. But in this case, the reviews that are posted and submitted to any of these sites might be up for a few days before you even know that they're there. Now, we get a lot of questions about Yelp's essentially recommended reviews, right? So one of the most common scenarios is you have as a business, we'll see somebody with a pretty bad rating on Yelp, below 3 stars. and there's like 2 or 3 reviews that are really dragging that star rating down. There's a section underneath the reviews that are showing up that basically are the reviews that are not recommended. And then those reviews have 5 stars. And so if Yelp were to count all of the reviews that that business has actually received, they're probably closer, let's say, to a 4.2 or a 4.5 rating. But Yelp has an algorithm that determines which reviews are recommended, which means these are the reviews that get factored into your star rating. Now, most reviews that are going to be published on Yelp, unless they really, they violate some sort of term of service of Yelp that allows them, or that is going to cause them to delete that review. So you're not going to lose these reviews by and large, but if they're not recommended, they're not going to factor into your rating, which can be frustrating if the majority of your positive reviews are getting filtered, but it's your negative reviews that are not. And so we've kind of figured out that reviews written by people that typically use Yelp are less likely to be filtered. So somebody who's written, a handful of reviews on Yelp, and then they've been a user of Yelp for a few years now, their review is probably going to be recommended, which means that it's going to get factored into the star rating. The ones that we see that typically get filtered are going to be reviews from first-time Yelp users. And so this is the first review they've ever written on Yelp. They've never really had an account on Yelp before. And also, as a Yelp user, you don't necessarily need to be prolific with your review writing, again, because Yelp knows if you're interacting with other businesses basically as a Yelp reviewer, if you're looking up other businesses, if you're, commenting or reacting, to some of the reviews. And that makes it more likely that if you write a review for a business on Yelp, that your review is going to be recommended. So if you have a specific question about that, and we know there's businesses that struggle with Yelp, definitely shoot us an email, or you can drop that information to the chat, and we're happy to reach out to you after the webinar and kind of discuss some strategies that you can employ. Okay, so I'll go ahead and leave these bullet points up for a little bit longer. If you guys kind of want to just make some notes. And then as a reminder, you do have access to this presentation after the webinar. Okay, having said all that, again, I said that Google is going to get that highest volume of reviews. They kind of have an unfair advantage just because the search engine is the most popular by far. So people really don't have a choice but see Google reviews. Okay. Anyway, so all that being said, Google reviews get the most volume, but consumers still trust Better Business Bureau reviews the most. And that's really interesting because, again, all else being equal, consumer is more likely to trust that BBB review when compared to the Google review. And what's nice about that is that also means that you don't necessarily need to have a lot of BBB reviews to see the impact on your businesses. The downfall of Google being as popular as it is for reviews is people expect businesses to have a lot of Google reviews. So, I know I said earlier 20 to 99, but I think, especially if you start to do research, people are trying to get triple-digit reviews on Google just because, again, more and more businesses have more and more reviews on Google. And the nice part about BBB is you might need 20 to 25 reviews on Google or 50 reviews on Google, but for BBB, you might only need 5 to have an outsized, influence on your online reputation. And so I think you can definitely use that to your advantage. Okay. With that being said, that's exactly why BBB is partnered with us. So we provide an app to accredited businesses to specifically help you all with customer reviews, especially since we know that, number one, customer reviews are important, but more importantly, or especially BBB reviews, since those are the ones that consumers tend to trust the most. This is an app that you are going to download as a business. So I do want to make it clear, your customer is not the one downloading this app. This is 100% an app for you to download. So whether you're the business owner or you work for a business, you're the one going to download the app. And how it works: name, mobile number, send. That's it. That's how easy it is. And so it's even actually easier than that because our app allows you, if you give it permission to pull directly from your device contact. So if you are the type of business that, if you have a separate business phone, or you like to keep all of your customer information on the phone that you use, it's even easier because you don't even have to type in their phone number. You can start typing in their name, and a drop-down menu is going to appear, and then you can select who you want to send the review request to. So that's what's nice about that. Again, at this point, all you've had to do is put in a name, number, and hit send, or start typing in a name and select the corresponding contact that you want to send that review request to. Okay. And in this case, whoever you just sent the request to is going to receive that text message pretty instantly. So it's going to have the customer name, thank you for choosing, and the company name. And would you be so kind as to leave a BBB review? That's it. So this is going to be the name that you type into the app, and then that's going to be your business name. So as a recap, you as the business have typed in the customer's name and phone number, and you've hit send. The customer at this point hasn't had to do anything. They get the text message, and all they have to do is click that link to leave you a BBB review, and that's it. So this whole process on your side probably takes you less than a minute. And then the customer, once they click the link, all that's actually required of them is to leave that review. And so what we've done or tried to do is remove as many steps on both the business side and the customer side to make it easy and quick as possible to get a BBB review from your customer. Okay. So really quickly, of course, you don't have to use the app to get reviews on BBB. Absolutely not. So, you could just, anybody right now can go onto your BBB business profile and leave your review. But you can think about what that might entail for a customer. If a customer wanted to leave your review on BBB, they would first have to find you on bbb.org. So maybe they go on bbb.org, they search for your business, and they have to make sure that they're selecting the correct profile. And for some businesses, some of you might have really similar names to other businesses. And so the customer has to make sure that it's the actual correct profile they're clicking on. Once they click on that profile, then they have to find where to leave your review and then leave you the review. And so, just that alone is going to be 3 or 4 more steps than just clicking the link in the text message. And so that's why this app is already available to you as an accredited business. It's 100% free and included with your accreditation. And so there's really no reason for you to not start using it today if you want a review on BBB. And so again, it's very quick and easy. All you have to do is customer name, mobile number, hit send. Customer just opens the text and clicks the link to leave your review. And then it's text-based because we found that text messages get a much, much better open and response rate than emails. So, and I encourage you to think about your own behavior. When you get texts and emails from businesses, what are you less likely to delete and what are you less likely to open? I get a lot of marketing texts now, and I still open them and read them. Whereas for email, essentially every morning, I probably go through my inbox and delete 70% of the stuff that's in there without even opening it. And so I'm sure that the people thinking about your own behavior, it's not going to be too different than that. And that's pretty much what the consensus is texts get a much, much better response rate than emails. And then the other thing too, so earlier I talked about BBB verifying customer information. So they want to make sure that either the email address or phone number provided by the customer when writing a review is valid in case they need to reach out to that customer, right? For whatever reason. On BBB, if a customer were to leave a review directly on the bbb.org website, they then have to wait for an email from BBB, go back into their inbox, find the email, open it up, and validate their email address that way. With the app, because they have to have a valid mobile number to even receive the link, by clicking the link to leave a review, they're simultaneously validating their phone number. And so that using the app allows the customer to essentially skip that manual additional verification, because clicking the link does that verification for them. And so again, it's one more thing that makes it easier for the customer to leave you a review. It's one more thing that's removed essentially from the things that they need to do. Okay. And then of course, because it's an app, it's a lot easier. We have a dashboard that allows you to track all the review requests that you're sending out or your company is sending out. And I'll talk about more of what that looks like if you're actually allowing your employees to use the app and send out review requests to your customers. So it's a lot easier to do it that way than if you're manually, let's say you're manually sending out emails to your customers. It's harder to track who responded when, because you probably have to go into your sent emails and then kind of cross-reference, okay, I sent this email to Jack. Did he leave me a review? Let me check. And so it makes it a little more tedious to kind of figure out, okay, I did send out all these review requests, but who actually left me a review? But with the app, we make that a lot easier for you. So again, any questions about that so far? I know we went over a lot of information, and going over the app mechanism. We usually get a couple of questions about that. So if you have any questions about that, go ahead and drop them into the chat/Q&A section, and Emily will make sure to address them. Okay, so we talked about the app in terms of a tool that you can use to get reviews, but there's still kind of some best practices that we recommend to make it even easier. So this obviously works best used in conjunction with the app, but you can certainly take these tips and just use them generically without necessarily using a tool to get a review. The number one thing I tell every business when starting to really focus on getting customer reviews is, whenever possible, ask for the review at the point of service, because that is when your customer is going to be the happiest with the service or product you provide. Okay, just think about how many businesses you interact with on a weekly or even a monthly basis. Okay, a typical day or a typical week for you. Maybe you go to the gas station, you get lunch, you get an oil change. You stop by a store on your way home, just all the different businesses you interact with. And if all those interactions were pleasant, or you didn't feel like you got ripped off, I mean, you probably feel fine about them, but you're not thinking about them when you get home, and you're certainly not thinking about them a week later. But if any one of those businesses maybe was rude, maybe you got lunch with a friend and the server spilled wine on you and didn't really apologize or wasn't very nice about it, the negative interactions are going to stick out more than the positive interactions. And so the reason we recommend asking for the review as a point of service is customers that are unhappy or not satisfied with what you provided for them, they'll find a way to get that feedback out, whether it's telling you directly, maybe telling their friends or family about their experience, or writing a review online. But happy customers, that's not really their tendency. And again, think about how many businesses you interact with and how many of those interactions were pleasant or nice, or you were happy with the business or the service, or sorry, the product or the service that was provided, and how many resulted in a review being written. You don't have to, just think about that. And so, but if you were prompted as a customer, then obviously you're more likely to write a review right then and there, especially if you are happy with the service. So again, the more time that has passed since the interaction, the less likely that customer is going to go of their own free will, their own volition, to write a review online for you if you did not ask them. Now, for some businesses, it might not necessarily be feasible to ask for the review at the point of service, depending on how you actually interact with your customers. And in this case, I recommend just pairing that ask with some sort of customer interaction, even if it's on the phone. So if you're calling maybe a customer to follow up on, a product they received, let's say, during that phone call, that's when you can ask for a review, because it's still tied to an interaction with the customer. Okay. And so in the, oops, didn't do that. That's on me. Go back. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. So And this middle column here is kind of a example of how you can ask for a review at the point of service. And you can certainly adapt this to however you typically interact with your customers. I will say that this is definitely easier to use if you're kind of a contractor, kind of home services based business. But again, depending on what type of business you do, what industry you're in, and the type of interaction you have with your customer, you can certainly tweak this approach. It looks something like this. So let's say you just finished cleaning a carpet for a customer. Okay. Everything looks great. You're sure that they're happy. So you come to them after the job is done and you let them know, hey, online reviews have become very important to my business. Would you mind leaving me a review? And they'll say yes or no. And usually if you're asking somebody face to face, they'll say yes. This is when the app really comes in handy, because you take out the app, you put in their name and phone number, and you send that review request while you're face to face with them. And that does a couple of things. Of course, if they have their phone on them, which they most likely will, they'll get the text while you're right there, and you can hear them get the text. And so it's almost like, they got it, they know they received it. And so, tell them, hey, that should be the text. Go ahead and check your phone, make sure you received it. And so this also allows you to confirm that they did receive that review request you sent out. Once they open up the text, let them know, hey, while you're taking a look at that, I am going to make sure everything looks good one last time. Now, this is the key. You make sure they receive the text and that they can open it, but then you walk away. And so number one, so you're not hovering over your customer and, they're going to feel some sort of tension or pressure to maybe write you a better review than you deserve. And I think in this case, you want to make sure that your customers are honest when they're giving you feedback so that you know what you're doing well, what you need to improve upon. Okay. That's another thing. And it's just awkward to kind of like stare at somebody while they're leaving a review. It's awkward for you. It's awkward for them. And so this kind of removes that awkwardness. So you're not sitting there hovering over them while they're writing that review. And then meanwhile, you can actually take this opportunity to double check your work. So in my example of the carpet cleaning, make sure that you didn't leave any of your equipment behind, or that there's not like a little speck left from your shoe. Maybe I know most people wear shoe covers, but maybe there was like a spot that you missed. So just go ahead and double check your work since you have the opportunity to do that and make sure everything looks good. Give it a few minutes, come back to your customer, ask them if they had any questions, and then you can leave from there. And so when this approach is adopted and you kind of execute it just like that, chances are you'll receive a review from that customer before you even leave the job site. And so that's what's nice about that. And that's why I always recommend kind of that approach. You can tweak it as you need to, but it really takes advantage of the asking at the point of service principle that we think is very important. So, and then just kind of as a generic comment, make asking for reviews a part of your process. So as a business owner, let's say you want reviews for your business, but maybe you're not the one interacting as much with your customers. Your team is, and then for them, make it easy for them. So they don't even have to think about it. If it's something that they have to do, it becomes a course of habit, and it's something then that you can hold them accountable for. So it makes it easy for you. It makes it easy for them. It's no different than having clock in, clock out procedures, maybe steps that they need to take when they invoice a customer. So if you just make it as part of their typical process, they don't even have to think about it. And success always comes from the top down in these types of situations. Okay. All right. Okay. So I do want to say though, don't ever offer money, discounts, gifts to customers in exchange for writing reviews. So the Federal Trade Commission here, they're considering a rule that would fine businesses essentially for trying to manipulate their reviews. And they'll obviously lay out guidelines for what constitutes manipulation. But in this case, they want to make sure that the trust that customers have in the overall business marketplace is not eroded. And that does get eroded if customers and consumers at large think that a big chunk of reviews that they're reading are not real. So they want to make sure that they're still, the customers know that when they're reading reviews online, that by and large, those reviews are authentic and they're coming from real customers. Okay, so that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing is BBB does not allow exchanging money, discounts, or gifts for reviews. Because again, if you're getting something in order to write a review, the implication is that that review is rosier than it would be otherwise. And so that's definitely not what you want to give off. And again, it's against the BBB's terms of service when it comes to reviews. It's also going to go against a lot of the policies of the major review sites that we covered. Some of the review sites will certainly just remove the review if they think that it was written in exchange for something. Some review sites would actually put a warning on your profile. I know Yelp is one of those where it says pretty explicitly this business was exchanging something for reviews. And of course, consumers are going to come to their own conclusions on what that means. So again, I just don't recommend it. And again, this way, you don't have to spend money to get reviews, because you should just be getting them by virtue of your excellent service and products that you're providing to your customers. Okay. Now, just another set of best practices that I talk about, give everybody in your company the ability to request reviews. I mentioned earlier that especially if you're like a manager or the business owner, you might not be interacting with your customers as much as your employees are. And so this is where you really need to, everybody that has any kind of interaction with a customer, even potential customer, needs to have the ability to request reviews. Sometimes, even the person picking up the phone at your office can make a huge impact on how a person feels about your business. And again, they don't even have to necessarily pay you for something, but they can still leave you a review. Some of the reviews that I find valuable are, hey, this business answered all my questions and did not pressure me into making a sale. And so I felt like they weren't, pushy. And so that's an important review to me, because if I'm doing research for businesses and I'm trying to determine, okay, which one I'm going to use for something, I want to make sure that they're not trying to put me in a high pressure sales situation. And so again, even if that person ends up not becoming a customer, sometimes those are some of the more valuable reviews that you can have as a business. Okay. Another thing that makes it really easy is put either one person or one department in charge of reviews. Okay. If there's a group of, I don't know why it keeps doing that, I apologize. If there's a group of your employees that are requesting reviews, and then you get a review, let's say, and they don't know who's supposed to respond to it, everyone kind of knows what they want to say, but no one knows who to respond to. It makes it confusing for them, right? And so having one person in charge of that makes it easier, so that if a review comes in, that's that person or department's responsibility to address if there's any concerns raised in that review, to follow up with that customer if they need to, and to actually respond. And this also will, this person that's in charge of reviews can also be in charge of following up on review requests that were not responded to. And so they can take a look using the dashboard that comes with the app and see, okay, well, we sent out 50 review requests in the last month and these 20 customers didn't respond. So let me go ahead and follow up with them. Again, makes it a lot easier for everybody to know that this is this person or department's responsibility. You don't necessarily have to have just hire a person that just does reviews, but you can have somebody where that's part of what they do. And again, it makes it a lot easier for everybody else. Okay. Talk about this a little bit earlier, but you can hold employees accountable, especially using the app. It makes it very easy to track. So the app allows you to track all the review requests that are being sent through the app, who they're being sent to, who's sending them, and if that request was responded to. And so it's very easy for you to go on and say, okay, these are my 5 team members. I've given them all the ability to request reviews using the app. So they've all downloaded the app on their mobile devices. John here has sent 30 reviews in the last 6 weeks, and half of them have responded. But Sally here hasn't sent a single review request in the last 3 months. And so maybe Sally doesn't know how to use the app, or maybe she feels intimidated by asking for reviews, but this is your opportunity to be able to see which one of your employees is doing what they're supposed to do. Okay. On the flip side of that, you should incentivize your employees. And in fact, I highly, highly recommend it. We talk about not incentivizing your customers, but there's nothing that says you can't reward your employees. Number one, it just boosts morale, knowing that they're getting rewarded for asking for feedback and getting good feedback. And number two, it can create kind of a small little competition that makes it more likely for everybody to participate. So we have seen a lot of businesses implement some sort of reward system for reviews pretty successfully. It could be something as simple as, the person that requests the most reviews in a week gets free lunch on Fridays. Maybe they get to leave 30 minutes early, something along those lines. Maybe every time they get a 5-star review, they get a raffle ticket, and then quarterly you hold a raffle for something like an iPad. It's very easy to reward your employees in that way. And then another thing too is being able to kind of see not only which your employees are requesting feedback, but which ones are receiving feedback, and especially great positive feedback gives you an insight into your team that you might not have otherwise had. So a lot of times when you get reviews from customers, they don't necessarily mention who they had an interaction with or who helped them, and you might have to look that up and cross-reference it, or maybe, or they might not even remember who helped them. And so this allows you to see, okay, it was John who sent this review request and John got the 5-star review. And if somebody is consistently getting more 5-star reviews than the rest of your team, that tells you something about that person's performance, right? And so I think that's kind of a really great byproduct of using the app and the dashboard to track the review requests, is you see which one of your employees are actually doing a fantastic job, that maybe you wouldn't have known that otherwise. And then going back to putting one person in a department in charge of reviews, it's important to have a follow-up strategy. Whether or not, even if it's just to say, we're not going to follow up with people after requesting reviews. And so that people know, okay, well, this person didn't leave a review and I asked them 2 weeks ago, do I send them another one, or what does that look like? So if there's a follow-up strategy that's implemented by one person or a department that's in charge of reviews, again, it makes it easier for everybody involved. Okay. Any questions about that? Okay, so I see we do have a chat. Really quickly, I'll go ahead and address this on the webinar because I think it's an important question. So there's a question from Richard Williams. When downloading the review app and setting it up, is there a wait time before a business can use it? Can they use it right away or once they have it downloaded? That is a fantastic question. And the answer is there is no wait time. So if you're accredited, you can use it immediately. And that's something that we'll talk about at the end of the webinar. If you're not using the app yet and you want to get started, we can certainly help you with that. There's a couple of different ways to get started on the app. The easiest way is logging into your portal to get the app information. But you can also contact your local BBB rep to get kind of the download link and the device key that you need to use, or that you need to use to be able to start using it. But short answer is no, there is no wait time if you're an accredited business. So that's a great question. Thank you for asking, Richard. And let me know if you need further details on that. Okay. So we talked about, the tool that you can use as an accredited business to get more reviews, especially BBB reviews. We talk about some strategies you can employ when asking for reviews, and also company-wide to make sure that as a business, you are maximizing the number of reviews that you're receiving. And all of that, you've gotten a review. So now you have to respond to them, right? And we talked about also that certain customers nowadays also find it important for businesses to respond to reviews. Okay, so this is by no means an exhaustive list in responding to reviews, and you're gonna glance at this and think some of this is common sense. But I think if you even take a few minutes and read some of the responses that businesses have to some of their reviews, maybe you think that some of this isn't so intuitive, let's say, okay? Again, please respond to all of your reviews. I see a tendency of businesses to just respond to their negative reviews. And in that case, the people that are leaving even neutral or positive reviews aren't acknowledged, but it's important that you are responding to every review that you receive as a business. So again, it's as simple as just thanking them for leaving their feedback and appreciating the opportunity to do business with them, okay? Should go without saying, you would be surprised. Always be courteous and polite, and this is especially important when you're responding to a less than flattering review of your business. So I think a lot of what people forget when they respond to reviews is that the audience is not just the person who wrote that review. There's a chance that that person is not going to read your response. And so your audience is the internet at large. So anybody that comes across that particular review, that's who's seeing your response. And so just always keep that in mind. And on the flip side, if the customer who wrote the review is reading that response, that is your opportunity to bring back the disgruntled customer. So maybe they wouldn't have come back, or maybe you didn't even realize that they were upset about something, you know? And so the way that you respond can be the key. So they were unhappy with your business, but if they're happy with the way you addressed their review, they'll come back. And you probably have seen this. I know I have, where you'll read a review and it says, this is actually an update. I originally left a 1-star review, but I was pleased with how they addressed it. And so I'm updating a review to a 5-star. I've definitely seen that happen. And that is something that can happen if you respond to your negative reviews in, you know, a kind, considerate manner, right? And then another thing too is I always recommend apologizing. And really what that just means is to acknowledge that your customer was frustrated. So if you have a negative review, at some point that customer did not have the experience that you want them to have, whether or not it was your fault or something else. You know, there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that their experience is not typical, and that you apologize that they had such a frustrating experience with your business. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean that you admit fault. I know that depending on what the review covers, it may be a legal reason not to do that, but there's nothing that at least doesn't allow you to apologize for the experience that they had that's, you know, not up to your standards. And then don't get emotional or defensive. You see that a lot in reviews. And what I would recommend is, even though earlier I did say that I, you know, aim for responding within 24, 48 hours. However, if you haven't quite calmed down yet and your reflex is to be really defensive when responding to a negative review, I would say give it a few days. It's better to wait a couple of days to respond rather than respond right away, but your response does not show you as a business in a flattering light. And so a lot of times you'll notice that, you know, I'll read a negative review and it's kind of clear that the customer has like unreasonable expectations. I think we've all experienced that. And so I'm on the business side. I'm like, okay, like, you know, these are kind of very nitpicky, not really realistic expectations. And you'll see that. But then I'll read the business's response, and the business is insulting and defensive and angry. And then all of a sudden I'm like, you know what, maybe the customer has a point. And so that's another thing too, is again, to keep in mind that the person or the people reading your response is not just that particular customer. And a good tip is, you know, to write down what you actually want to say to the customer without actually posting it, and then just throw it away. If you want to get your thoughts out on paper. But essentially, if you know that you're going to respond in a not professional manner, give it a few days before you actually submit the response on that review site for the public to see. Okay, another thing is going into too much detail or making it personal. Again, it's very unprofessional. If you're making it personal or going into too much detail too, sometimes that is going to go against the regulations for certain industries. So the financial industry is very strict on revealing customer details. So is the medical industry. And so just keep that in mind. And also, you don't want to debate the issue online, going back and forth with exactly what happened. You don't want to litigate that whole issue for the world to see. So I always offer to address it outside of the review platform. So acknowledge they had a frustrating experience, apologize, let them know this is not typical. This is, not what we hold ourselves to, and could you please contact us at so-and-so? And that way you can address it that way. And another thing is, don't speculate on why a certain customer is upset. If, again, you can always offer to take it off the review platform or offline and communicate with them to figure out the actual reason. Or if it's not clear, a lot of times maybe they didn't actually patronize your business. And so this is another way where if you're not sure who this customer is, or you're not sure that they ever did business with you, you can actually say that in your response and say, hey, I'm not showing any records, or, not showing that this is a customer that we've had. Like, do you mind contacting us at so-and-so, and then we can clear it up and, just confirm. And for somebody that's reading that, that looks professional and like you actually want to get on to the bottom of it. And also, if you do see reviews that you think are not from actual customers of yours, number one, BBB lets you let them know that, hey, I didn't have a marketplace interaction with this person. And then the other review sites, they have different mechanisms where you can like flag the review or report it and note that I did not have any kind of interaction with this customer. Okay. Any questions about that? All right. And so, and then the next thing is kind of leveraging reviews. And so we'll talk about this very quickly. I think that people really forget how impactful reviews can be just in terms of your online marketing. I mean, beyond what people are actually reading and deciding to go with your business. Most of the research that people do on businesses is online. And if you are paying for any kind of SEO or marketing, reviews are basically the best type of free SEO you can get. So the majority of all website traffic comes from organic search. That means that if I'm going on your website, chances are I Googled you. And something made me want to click on your website. And 9 times out of 10, the thing that made me click on your website is the reviews that you have. And so that's something that you can, that's a distinct benefit from reviews that you are not paying for, because if you get a 5-star review, that's free, and you can benefit off of that. And then when people are researching your business online, maybe they're looking for plumbers, let's say, in a particular area. The third-party reviews that you get in their rankings factor into the search algorithm. And all that means is the reviews that you have can determine how high up on the search page your business appears. And so if you're the number 1 or the number 2 result for a particular search, think about the impact that has versus being at the bottom of the page or not showing up on the first page at all. Okay. And again, reviews factor a lot into that. So the rule of thumb is the more positive recent reviews you have, the better chance of you showing up high when people are searching for keywords that are relevant to your business. So whatever keywords it is that you can think of, that that customers search to get to businesses like yours, that's where you can improve. Okay. And then another thing is referral traffic from third-party review sites can significantly bolster your SEO. And I talked about this just now, is essentially if I'm reading your Google reviews and they look fantastic, I click that link to your website. That's not a link or a referral that you paid for, but that is one of the ways that people get to your website. And I'm going to say this. So bbb.org as a website has incredible authority with search engines because it's considered a reputable site, a trustworthy site. It's been around for a really long time, coupled with the fact that consumers trust BBB. So they're more likely to click on your BBB profile. If your BBB profile looks great, so you're accredited, you have a letter grade, and you have a really good review rating, they'll click on the website from your BBB profile and it takes them to your website. And so again, that is essentially very valuable referral traffic coming from your BBB profile that you are not paying anything additional for. Obviously, of course, being accredited helps a lot with that, but it's not like it's an extra charge on top of being accredited. And so I think people really forget the impact that these types of things can have on just getting people to your website, which is one step closer to them using you for whatever they need, whether it's a service or a product. Okay. Yeah, and so I think in general, reviews make you a better business. Okay. There's a couple of things, and negative reviews, look for patterns, right? If all your negative reviews are saying they mention the same 2 or 3 things, that tells you something. Maybe that is a policy you need to update, or maybe that's a policy that you already have but isn't clear. And so people complaining about, oh, I didn't realize it was this. Okay, so that tells you maybe that's something that you need to be more forthcoming, things like that. You can use AI technology to kind of extract keywords or phrases from your reviews. And so you know which ones tend to get repeated a lot. Okay. On the flip side, if you have a positive review, the positive feedback, you know exactly what you're doing well. So if there's a particular product that everybody praises, or and earlier I talked about if there's the same employee that's consistently getting the 5-star reviews, or there's a policy that everybody just loves, okay, well, that tells you, that reinforces, okay, I need to keep doing this because this is what people love about my business. And then neutral reviews, honestly, they're very important too, because it shows you the easier areas to improve. It's easier to go from a 3-star to a 5-star than a 1-star to a 5-star. And so these are kind of like the digestible, low-hanging, easy wins for your business. Again, going from meh to great is a lot easier than going from terrible to fantastic. Okay. And then, it's easy to use reviews in your marketing. You can display them on your website, social media. You can print them on your collateral. I would always double check. Certain review sites have different terms if you can repurpose those reviews on other forms of media. So just double check. And then sometimes you do have to ask permission from your customer. But again, there's no reason, once you double check and make sure it's okay, you can repurpose your positive feedback in your marketing, digital or print. Really quickly, so one of the things that you can do is you can evaluate your current review snapshot at baseline. So right now, Google your business online and see what's out there. Do you have any BBB reviews? What does your Google page look like? Do you appear on any other review sites? What are your review ratings? How many reviews do you have? Do you have really old reviews or really new ones? Okay, there's a Google Search Console, Google Business Profile. So there's a lot of tools that you can use to kind of measure just what types of the ROI in getting reviews. But I would absolutely, the first one, evaluate the baseline, look at what you look like right now, and then start using the app, and you can see the big difference it makes, even just in your BBB reviews, and the increase in traffic from that. Okay, so if you're an accredited business, I talked about this, and you want to get started with the BBB Reviews app, log into your business account, contact your local BBB rep. If you're not currently accredited and would like more information on BBB accreditation, please contact your local BBB office. I do want to point out, and it's not on the slides today, but I will include it in the presentation that goes out to everybody, is there is an upgrade to this app. So of course it's 100% free, what I presented to you, to accredited businesses to get BBB reviews. You can use the same app to get reviews on other platforms like Google, Facebook, Yelp, or industry-specific platforms like HomeAdvisor, right? And all of that. And there is an upgrade to that. And if you're interested, you can contact us and we can explain to you just the benefits of upgrading. It is an additional cost, and you don't have to pay for it, obviously, and you can benefit from the free app now as an accredited business. Okay. And here's our contact information. So support@thereviewsolution.com is an email if you have any questions about the app or anything we covered today. That's our toll-free number, 888-649-6140, and our website, yourcustomerreviews.com. Okay, and these are the upcoming events for BBB and Midwest Plains. And so, Jenny, if you want to just go through these really quickly.
Yes, thank you so much. So just wanted to let everybody know, please continue to look at our website, bbbinc.org, throughout the year for our upcoming events. These are just a few that we have coming up in regards to protecting yourself from scams and frauds on May 14th. May 15th is Mastering Efficiency, and that's unlocking the power of the BBB response portal. May 22nd, we have about credit repair and how does it work exactly. And then May 23rd, Leading Boldly, Transforming Anxiety into Power, as well as Building Credit, Understanding Your Credit Report and Score on May 30th. Then also just want to remind everyone again, that we appreciate you for coming out today. You can go to the next slide. For coming out today and being with us, a part of this wonderful webinar. We thank you. We thank you, Myra and Emily, as well, for helping us out today and giving us all this great information. If you have any ideas that you would like to see the Bureau put on, we ask that you please let us know. I would love to talk to you about those opportunities. And you can go to the next slide. Then lastly, we just have a quick survey today. You can go ahead and scan the QR code and give us your feedback. We're always striving to do better and be the best. So please let us know how it went today. Again, thank you to everybody. Emily and Myra, we appreciate your time and your help as well. Everyone stay safe, and we'll get this out to you later on this afternoon. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.